Thanks a lot, Shiki, for this nice introduction and also a warm welcome from my side. And when I say my side, it's not only me, but we have also a bunch of people, of our experts here from our product management teams. We have Archana here, we have Priya, Milton, and also Sebastian. And from all of us, thanks that you're joining our session today and learn how to automate your CapEx, your capital expenditure approval processes with predefined workflow content and RPA bots. And what I can already guarantee you, you will have a lot of fun during the next 2 hours. We have prepared some nice exercises to you. And of course, you are invited to do these exercises on your own, either with us or after the session, so that you really learn how you can combine these two sides of process automation, workflows, and RPA bots within one common scenario. I just would like to give you a short introduction before we come to the actual exercise. So when we take a look at the intelligent enterprise, what we are supporting, and also where we would like to support you to bring your organization becoming an intelligent enterprise, of course, we have here a very solid technology foundation, the business technology platform, where also SAP Workflow Management and SAP Intelligent RPA are an integral part of it. Across these business technology platform on top, the applications are running, the intelligence suite, for example, like SAP S/4HANA. But what you can also see there, that there's a layer of business process intelligence. So everything what has to do with getting insights of processes, monitoring these processes, doing some improvements, for example, with workflow management and intelligent RPA, and then actually also ensure that these processes are running as expected. And of course, processes, workflows can run across different functions, include also different stakeholders and different systems. When we take a look at workflow and also at automation in the bigger SAP strategy, of course, we see that often it is not enough to really just focus on the processes which are running in the intelligence suite. We see in our customer base that there are currently transformation processes are ongoing, for example, also to extend core business processes, to automate also certain activities, and to really go this, let's say, last mile of automation to really bring together all the pieces within one common scenario. And of course, this we are supporting with different technologies. And today in this session, we would like to show you how you can bring these technologies together to really get the best out of it for your environment, for your solution. Probably you would say, aren't these processes already standardized? Aren't these already automated within S/4HANA, for example? And yes, you're right, most of the processes are standardized, they're automated, running across different systems within SAP S/4HANA, across different stakeholders. But nevertheless, there are areas where we have this, let's say, 20% of non-standard workflows, where you would like to create something new. For example, net new workflows which don't exist, at least in the standard, or where you also would like to do some kind of cross LOB workflows, include also different kind of automations within this. And this is also what we often see on the one hand side, the creation of net new processes, and on the other hand, really extension of standard processes. And there we have the right tool set for you today. When you take a closer look, what process automation and also in a low-code, no-code environment, because you will also see today what we are doing here has not too much to do with really coding, because we are really providing you an environment which you can use in different scenarios, but also, of course, different personas from the pro developer to the, let's say, citizen developer. And therefore, of course, when we take a look, we have on the one hand side the area of application composition, we have digital experience with all our UI technologies, and where we will focus on today is, of course, the automation area. And the good thing, the good news, everything works seamlessly together and can also be used within your scenario without any issues. And by the way, it doesn't matter whether you would like to include this in an, let's say, extension of an SAP process or extensions of non-SAP systems, because we are, of course, supporting both sides. Let's now take a closer look at the two solutions where we are focusing today and where we are also doing the hands-on today with you. So We have here two low-code, no-code solutions. On the one hand side, SAP Workflow Management, which enables you to really create end-to-end workflows across different systems, across different LOBs. Could be extensions, could be net new processes. And the nice thing here is we don't want you to start from scratch each and every time. So we are providing here so-called live process content packages, which are providing templates, let's say also accelerators for the most common business problems, which are available in different LOBs and in different industries. And this is also true for SAP Intelligent Robotic Process Automation. Also there we have a rich set of pre-built bots. And for both solutions, it's important also for you to understand that we are not really, let's say, assigned to a dedicated LOB, to a dedicated industry. You can use this each and everywhere because it's providing a rich set of flexibility and also content in these different areas. So, okay, we have workflow management to create the automated workflows, but also we have intelligent RPA, and here it's really to automate tasks, to replace probably also repetitive tasks with some kind of digital workers. So sometimes here we also have the saying, whenever people are acting like a robot, probably let the bot do the work. And this is where we are using, for example, intelligent RPA. So taking a closer look at intelligent RPA, who could use this, and you can see here, and this is also true for workflow management, it could be expert developers, it could be citizen developers, and also business process experts. Also important to know, so we are not limiting ourselves, and this means also you, to dedicated, let's say, personas. We are really providing here a wide spectrum of use cases and also entry points, if you will. You can use then the different components like the studio, like the cloud factory, and also the agents to build this bots, and also then to automate human tasks. Or you could even use this, remark, this is not part of the session today, but you could also use a so-called process recorder to really record what's going on the screen and then let a bot do the work for you, because we have also here different kind of flavors of bots. The one are called attended bots. So this means someone is really also observing, human being is observing the bot, and the other ones are the unattended bots. So they are running in the background. Probably you do not even know that they are there, but they are doing really great work for you and providing you with the right results at the right point in time. And why are we doing this? Why should you actually think about process automation? Of course, to save time, to reduce the costs, and also to reduce any kind of errors in your operations. Let's take a look at the other side of the process automation coin, workflow management. So with this service offering, you can digitize workflows, you can automate, but also extend business processes. You are able to match the decision logic and also get visibility. And there we have different capabilities, of course, workflow. And also here we are providing from a, let's say, pro code environment to low code, no code environment. And this is actually what you also would see today in our hands-on session, how you could create your own process variants based on dedicated content packages. We have business rules to manage the decision logic, and interesting thing here is you can actually manage these business rules independent of the workflows of the application logic. So this means whenever you need to change something, you only need to touch the business rule and not a complete implementation. On the other hand, once the workflows are running, you also need to ensure, are they running as they have been designed? So are they really within certain key performance indicators? This is something you can observe with process visibility, which will also be part of our hands-on. And then, of course, someone also needs to consume, work on the human task here, do some approvals, for example, and this will be done within my inbox application. Just to get a complete picture, just 2 weeks ago, we have released another very interesting capability called Workflow Intelligence, which could use to get some kind of machine learning-based recommendation. So the system is checking what kind of, for example, approvals have been done before, and then gives you the recommendation whether you should approve this or not with a dedicated confidence level. Workflow management, tightly integrated to intelligent RPA, you will also see this, but also to other technologies. For example, if you're looking for digital assistants, which can be built with conversational AI. So as I said before, we do not only support you and provide you the tools, but also the content. And this is also one important topic of this hands-on that you also see what kind of content do we have there, how you can discover and import this content, how you can adapt this content to your actual business needs. And then it's just a matter of a few clicks to activate and then to consume this new process variants in your very own environment. So with this, here just some highlights. There are further other sessions around automation. You will also see this in the slide deck, but I think now it's a good time to really take a look at our exercises, and therefore let me just show you what we have there. I have also the link in entry screen. We will also post it later on, but actually what we will do here with you, you will see how you could quite easily set up the both solutions, workflow management, intelligent RPA. Then we will show you how you would use workflow management to actually get content packages. And the scenario which we are using here is called CapEx, Capital Expenditure Approval Process. So this is a scenario, imagine you have any kind of new projects or any kind of new investments you would like to do. Then of course you also need to have the right budget, and someone needs to approve this budget. And with these content packages, we are providing you the right content that you can really do these approvals with the workflows, with the business rules, with the visibility dashboards, and also with the user interfaces. In the second exercise, you will learn how you can actually then enhance this workflow with the help of intelligent RPA. Actually, you could use then, for example, this bot, which we are creating here, to trigger actually such kind of workflow. Just imagine there are probably different sources where the information is coming from, and you would like to really funnel them within one environment and really then trigger the workflow. So with this was a short introduction. I would like now to hand over to Archana, who will guide you through the introduction and setup exercise. Thank you.
So thank you, Stephan, for the introduction, and let's get started with exercise 0, which is the mandatory exercise for this workshop, and which is about setup. So before we do a setup, there are some prerequisites that you need to understand, and these prerequisites are that this whole exercise is designed for SAP BTP trial accounts. So you can do your exercise on your own trial account. Even if you have an enterprise account, you can try it out, but few steps might be different. The second thing is that for robotic process automation, you need a Windows machine for the desktop agent. And if you do not have a Windows machine, maybe you can use any kind of VM that is provided in your organization and so on. So trial account, and with trial account only US based trial account, because the robotic process automation is not yet available in Azure. So you only have to create your trial account on the US 10 data center. And then is the Windows machine for the desktop agent. So let's get started. So I am at the home page of the SAP BTP trial account. If you are logging in for the first time, you will have to follow certain instruction which is mentioned in the exercise. You have to provide your details, and then you will get a notification registered email, and from there you can actually launch your SAP BTP trial account. So once you have done your initial prerequisites, if you are new, you come to this page and then you click on go to your trial account, which actually takes you into your trial account. So if you have created a trial account, it will already create a sub account for you. Like I have created this one for the US data center. So as I said, currently only 2 data centers are supported, the US and the Singapore one. So please don't choose Singapore, choose only US 10 data center. The next is boosters. We have provided automated way of setting up your account. So as part of this exercise, we will be setting up a workflow management and robotic process automation in your trial account. So for this, you do not have to do any kind of manual steps. You just have to run these boosters that we have provided for workflow management and for robotic process automation, which will automatically set up your account with all the needed things that are needed. Okay, so let's go on to and so this is the category under which you will find our boosters. So first we'll start with the workflow management booster. So from the global account, select boosters on the left plane and then select extension suite, digital process automation theme. And from there you can start the workflow management booster. Okay, so once you start the booster does couple of things. This screen will come only if you have multiple sub accounts. So like I had two sub accounts, that's why it is asking me which sub account do you wish to run this booster on. But if you do not have if you just have a single sub account, then this screen will not come and your booster will automatically get started. So what the booster is doing is, so booster will automatically assign the entitlements to your sub account. The booster will subscribe to the workflow management application. It will create the needed service instance. It will create the destinations, and it will also assign the role collections to your user. So these all things booster does. My booster was quick because I already had run it one time. But if you're running it for the first time, it might take like 3 to 4 minutes for you to run the booster. Once the booster runs, you will get a success dialog, and then you can navigate into the sub account. So when you click on navigate into the sub account, it will go into your sub account. And now I'll show you what all the workflow management booster did. Okay, so the first thing that the booster has done is assign the entitlements to your sub account. So there are four service entitlements that are needed. One is the business rules. The another one is the process visibility. The third is the workflow. And the final one is the workflow management. So these are the four service entitlements that the booster will assign as part of the workflow management. Then what the booster did was it enabled the subscription for workflow management Launchpad. So this is a developer Launchpad, I mean, where you get all our applications ready to use, and you do not have to really, build a Launchpad from the scratch and then add these things. We also have these applications available to be added to the Launchpad service. But if you already have your Launchpad service, and if you're planning to go and create a Launchpad site and add these applications, that is also available. But for the easy sake, we have provided these workflow management Launchpad subscription. If you click on the subscription, you are already taken to a Launchpad which has all the applications related to workflow management, like workflow applications, rule visibility, visibility, flexibility, and also now the new service that we have released, the workflow intelligence. The third thing what the workflow management booster did was it created the service instance. So there are four service instances that gets created as part of the booster, and these service instances also, there will be a service key that will be created for these different service instances, and these keys will basically, you will be needing it if you want to call any of these services through APIs. So if you're using a client credential flow, you need all the details of, what will be the URL, what will be the client ID, secret, and other things, which is something that you will get through these different service instances that the booster has created. The next thing what booster did was creating of destinations. So so we have given a lot of destinations that you might need during the project already created for you. So these, if you see, these four are basically the service instance based destinations, and they will be used when you want to add any of our any of our services applications into your Launchpad side. So these are destination for that. In case you want to use principal propagation in your workflows, then this is a mandatory destination, and so already create these destinations for you, again based on the service key of the workflow. Then business rules destination, if you see, this is a destination that we create in case you want to call the business rules through API. So let's say you want to call a business rules in a workflow, then if you then there will be a destination that will be needed. So you can use these destinations that are already created for you in case you want to use rules in any of your applications or in workflows and so on. Then this destination is basically used if you want to import the content in business rules from API Hub. So this is a mandatory destinations for API Hub integration, and if you want to import anything in business rules from API. So the final destination is the WM CF space provider, and this destination is basically needed when you want to import the content that you will see how we will do that. So they are ready-made content that we have made available in API Business Hub, and through Process Hub you can import these content directly into your account. And to import that content, you need this destination. So once you have run the booster, you actually have to come to this space provider. You have to click and edit, and you have to make a change in the password. So this is your trial account system password that you have to use. Few things you have to note when you are entering the password. So this user of yours that you're using should not be a two-factor authenticated user. So how do you identify it's a two-factor authentication? So whenever you log in to this trial account, you will be asked for a separate passcode. If you are asked for a separate passcode, which means the two-factor authentication is enabled. And if you have such users, then you cannot use these users here. You have to find a user which is non-two-factor authenticated user. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you have a SAP Universal ID, if you have enabled your user with SAP Universal ID, so currently this integration of destination is not supported for SAP Universal ID based password. And there is a note which is available in the exercise documents. So you can follow that note, and you have to actually use your S user or P user IDs here, and not your SAP Universal ID. So once you have provided the password, you just save this, and you can check the connection. A lot of people have issues when they say check connection, because they read this response. So you can ignore the response that is being returned like this. The reason is there are some existing issues here, and so if this is shown as the status green, which means your connection is fine, and you can ignore the further response. Okay, so what you have done till now, you went to your global account, you ran the workflow management booster, the booster set up the entitlement, it enabled your subscription, it created 4 service instances for each of the services, it created destinations. So, and you went into the WM space provider destination, edited it to the right password. The last thing what the business rules, the booster also does is creation and the assignment of role collections to your users. So if I go to my user, so if you see here, these are the 4 role collections that the booster assigns to the user. So whoever is running the booster, because it's your trial account, so you will be running the booster, and it will automatically assign all these 4 role collections to the users. And these role collections contains the role that will be needed when you are actually creating a workflow, deploying a workflow, running creating a rule, or consuming a rule or if you want to access the process visibility dashboard or flexibility dashboard. So all these needed authorizations are available with these role collections. Good. So this is what the booster does. Now, over and above what the booster does, we have to do few more things for this exercise. And the first one, as I said, was changing the password in the destination. And second one is creating two role collections. One is a local manager role collection. So how do you create it? You go to role collections under security, you click on plus, and then you give a local manager. Okay, you give a role collections called local manager, like I have created already one like this. And when you go into the role collection, you can do an edit, and then you can add your user here. So once you add your user, you can do a save, and then this role collection will have your user. This role collection will actually be used in the workflow management exercises, and which Stephan will show you how it is being used. Okay, similarly, you once you have created the local manager, you have to create another a role collection, which is a CFO role collection. And in similar way, you just have to add your user to the CFO role collections. Okay, so you have now created the role collection. One more thing that you have to do is creation of a service instance. Okay, so the service instance that the workflow management booster will create will have a limited set of roles or scopes. But to start a workflow, we need a special scope. And this workflow basically will be started from the RPA bot. And to start that, we need a special scope, and for that we will create a new service instance. So you go to service marketplace, you search for workflow, and then you go ahead and create a new service instance. So let's say I do a next. You can give any name there. I do a next. And now I will enter the needed authority. So this is actually the scope that is needed. Okay. Okay, so this is the scope that is needed for any for any API to start the workflow. If you do not have the scope, then the API will throw an exception saying that you do not have the needed authorization. So now we have created a new workflow service instance, and we have added the scope. You can also add the scope to an existing instance, but for the sanity sake, we have just created a new instance and are not and do not want to edit the already existing instance created by the booster. Okay, so you add this authority called workflow instance start, and then you create it. Okay, so I have it already created, so I will not create this instance. And then when you go to instances and subscriptions, you will see this new instance already created, and then the instance will be created without any key. So you go ahead and create a new key. You can enter any name, and you can just say create. Okay, so this API key will actually have all the needed information that you will be needing when you want to run this workflow from the bot, and when you want to run the workflow, in fact, from even from an integration flow or from your standard application, from wherever you want to start a workflow, this is the procedure that you have to follow. You create an instance, you add the scope of workflow instance start, and then create an API key. And this API key will give you, this is the REST URL. So this is basically the URL, the host URL that you will be using to start the workflow. Then this is the client, this is a secret, and this is the token URL. So these are the four information that will be needed in the RPA bot when we are running the bot. And I'll show you when we come to exercise 2. Good. So so with this, we have completed the workflow setup. So you start, you run the booster, then you create, and then you update the destination, then you create 2 new role collections, which is local manager and CFO. Then you create a new service instance with workflow instance start as a scope. That completes the workflow management setup. Now let's go and see how the setup for the RPA bot is done. And it's also the same way. You go to the global account, you go to the boosters, you again select the category of digital process automation, and here is the booster for intelligent RPA, and you can click on start the booster. Again, you will get this screen because I have 2 sub accounts. If you do not have any sub account, the booster will automatically be started. Okay, so I'll not run the booster. Instead, I have already run it, and I will show you what does the booster have done in case of intelligent RPA. So again, I'll go into my sub account. Okay, so the first thing that the booster has done is it has given you a subscription. So this is your subscription for Intelligent Robotic Process Automation Cloud. And you can click here, and once you click here, it will take you basically to it will take you to the automation factory. So that's the link for that automation factory, and just take a note of this URL, excluding home. So this is the URL that you will be using to connect the automation factory with the desktop agent. So this is the note that you have to keep a note. So how did we came here is we just clicked the robotic process automation factory link in the subscriptions, which takes you here. Keep a note of this URL. Okay, what other thing it has done is it has also created a service instance as part of the booster run. Good, and it has also assigned some role collections to your user. So I will just show you that. Yeah, so RPA officer is the role that the booster has assigned to the user when you run the booster actually. So this role is automatically assigned to me, and this is needed to access the automation factory. Cool. So with this, the setup of the robotic process automation factory is also now done. Now, next, what we are going to do is we are going to set up the desktop agent. So that's the third thing that we have to do. And as I said, for that, you have to use a Windows machine. So mine is a MacBook. So I have set up a VM in my machine to access the desktop agent. Okay, so there are instructions that you can follow that you need to set up this as an like an on-premise kind of a setup. It's a 4-step setup which is mentioned in the documentation. You just follow that, and once you do that, you will get this desktop agent available as part of your as an application. And when you click this desktop agent, it will open the desktop agent, and you will see that initially it will not be in the ready state because you would not have added any tenant. So first thing that you have to do is you have to add a tenant. So you can just say click add. You give any name and then the URL of this. So as I said, so this is the URL that you have to give when you're running the desktop agent. So like this, I have, if you see here, this is the URL that you see on my screen, and this I have given is as a desktop agent. And then if you have multiple desktop agents, then you can click activate to switch to the one that you would want to work upon. Okay, so this is the setup that you have to do in the desktop agent. So you have to install the desktop agent based in your Windows machine based on the instructions given in the document in the exercises. You start the desktop agent and you add a tenant, and then you activate the tenant. Good. Okay. And as soon as you add the tenant to your desktop, and as soon as you add this automation factory in your desktop agent, you will also see in your home page of your automation factory that one agent is being added. So this is important because if this doesn't get added, you won't be able to run through the exercise. So ensure that that when you add and activate your agent in your tenant, your tenant in your desktop agent and you come back to your automation factory, it should show at least one here. Good. Okay. So with this, we complete all the three setups that were needed. So one was workflow management, the another was a robotic process automation factory, and the third was the desktop agent. So these were the three setup, and now I will just hand it over to Stephan to take you through exercise one, which is about importing and setting up a sample content using workflow management applications. Over to you, Stephan.
Thanks so much, Archana. And as there have been some questions in the chat, just to let you know, so what we are doing in this session, we are showing you the exercises and also here there for your questions. But of course, it's up to you when you would like to do the exercise, either directly or afterwards. And then also within the GitHub, you can ask your questions and we will also monitor this after this event. So with this, now we have done the setup, everything is in place. We have assigned all the roles. We have set up also workflow management in the intelligent RPA. And now we will go to exercise number one. And in exercise number one, we will go here first and foremost in the trial account. And here within instances and subscriptions, after we have run both boosters, we can see we have intelligent RPA as a trial. We have the business application studio, which we, by the way, will not touch in this exercise. So this is rather for a developer role, but we will now take a look at workflow management. So, and as you can see here, there are different tiles available. Everything has been assigned now to my role. Of course, in a real life environment, probably you would not see each and every of them because monitoring tools, these are more for the, let's say, administrators. Then we have the development tools, which we will use later on. And also here more the tools for the business process expert. And actually, this is where we will start with the process flexibility cockpit here. So within the process flexibility cockpit, we will see later on here my live processes. But first and foremost, as we have said, we would like to make use of already created content. And therefore, we are going here into discover packages. And now something really great is happening because we have here now a direct connection to the API Business Hub. And the API Business Hub is this place where all the content packages are available. Good thing is, even if you do not have SAP Workflow Management, you can take a look here. We will post the link also later on for all the live process content packages which are there. And as you can also see here, there are really a lot of them in different industries, in different LOBs. And the one we are looking for in this exercise is the sample capital expenditure approval process. Important, it's not this one, capital expenditure approval process, it's the sample. So we have dedicated content packages for this, which is called sample capital expenditure approval process. Now let's take a look what's in there. So on the one hand side, you will get here information, what this package is all about. You will also see this, of course, with them, the related information also in the other packages. You get the documents, setup guide, for example, also some further links. By the way, also to SAP community, you are all invited also to join us there in SAP community under workflow management or intelligent RPA to stay in contact with us. But now let's take a closer look on the artifacts, because before we would like to import, probably we would like to check what kind of artifacts, what kind of content we will get there. And first and foremost, we have here the process, and let's take a look what's coming there. Well, actually, here's a first variant, a default variant called low value investment with an initialization step to start the process, and then with just one approval step. And this sounds very slim and looks also very simple, but nevertheless, behind the scenes, there are certain activities going on, for example, determining who are the approvers. Then there's also some reworks which can be done and so on and so forth. But of course, we would like to hide all this complexity for our business process expert, because they should really focus on the, let's say, on the solution which will help them to solve their problem. In addition to that, we do not only have a process, we have here two other tiles. We have decisions. Now let's take a look what we have here. So first and foremost, there is a policy implemented, which actually determines whether there is a manual approval necessary or whether it can be skipped. And this is also then based on different attributes, which you can then also maintain based on your scenario. And last but not least, we have also here the visibility scenario. And the visibility scenario itself, it's a dashboard which should be there with one click. And there you can see that there are also some key performance process indicators which have been created here for you and which you then can also use. So now I think we have taken a look at all the stuff, and now I think we can also import the content packages. And this is what we're doing right now, just clicking on import. Now this takes a couple of minutes, depending internet connection and some other items. But what is happening now actually, that all the contents or the process variants, also the business rules, which have been created here, and also the visibility scenario will now be imported within your flexibility cockpit, within your environment, which you have created in your own trial account. And now we have here a change button. So before it was import, now it's configure. And now we are ready to configure our own capital expenditure approval process. So here again, we have three areas. We have the process variants, we have decisions, we have the visibility scenario. And let me now take a look here at the low value investment, which was coming in. And just do a refresh. Yes, so you can see this has been the draft, the default variant, what we have been taking a look at the beginning. So with the local manager approval, and actually this is what we also now would like to activate in this case. So in addition to that, there are also some decisions available. For example, this rule determine local approvers. And we can also take a look here at this decision diagram, what is happening here. We have here a rule set. We have also here a decision table. And in this case, we could also actually activate this one. And in addition to that, we have also our visibility scenario available there. So, and though we have now everything there, we would now like to create our own variant. And therefore, we are going here to the process variant again and create a new process variant. And let us call this high value investments in Germany. And this is based on the sample capital expenditure approvals process, which we have here as a default template. So if we now take a look here, you can see that we again have here our one process step, local manager approval, and we would now like to add another approval step. In this case, we would like to have here another step for our CFO. So therefore, we are changing the name, and we are also changing the role. And you remember probably at the beginning, at the setup, we have also defined this role collection, and this is also what we are making use of this. So the only thing what we then need to do is just to activate now this new process variant. Okay, this is now has been successful. And now, of course, we also need to adapt our business rule. So therefore, let me check here, determine all approvals, and what we are doing here now. Creating here a new draft version and then check on this business rule whether an auto approval is necessary or not. So, and there is a text rule available, and this we could adapt then also based on our needs. So in our case, in our exercise, we would really have to have these approvals for all the investments which are above or equal 20,000 euro. And this is also what we want to do here. And also we want to release here this new version. So new version for SAP TechEd. So what we have done so far, by the way, the most recent business rule which is active is always the one which is underneath the draft version. So trial 104 is now the current version which is active. Going back now, we have now created a new process variant. We have changed our decision. Now let's take a look at our visibility scenario. So these are all the process indicators, performance indicators which have been created. And of course, we can also edit them. So you could, for example, add here also new performance indicators, but you could also, for example, change the representation here. For example, for the approved capital expenditure request, we don't want to have the representation as a donut chart, but rather, for example, here, in this case, as a bar chart. So you are really flexible. You can create these performance indicators based on the attributes, on the data which is coming actually from the workflow context itself. And now let me also activate this new dashboard. So also this has been now successfully activated. And we have now a new process variant. We have adapted the decision. We have also slightly adapted the visibility scenario. And now it's time to really run our new process variant. So therefore we go back to the home button, to the Launchpad. And in this case, we are starting now here this workflow via the monitoring tools. Of course, in a real life example, this could be triggered via an API call, or what you will also learn then later on via what is triggering then this workflow. So we have here high value investments in Germany. And this is actually the process variant we now would like to start. So therefore we are selecting this one. We click on Start New Instance, and there is already a predefined JSON file, but we will use the one from our exercise. So there are some further attributes and sustainability. We have here, of course, also the total cost 50,000. So actually then also our rule should work that this would go into this two-step approval. And then there is one important thing. What you need to do is actually to include here your email address from your SAP BTP trial account. So just include here my email address. By the way, you can also use this email address. If you have further questions on the topic, please feel free to contact me or my colleagues. Okay, my first name is not John, so it's a nice name. So, and the last name, Schluchter. Good. Now we have changed everything what needs to be done here, and now we will start a new instance. So, and as an administrator, we can even take a look now here at the instances which are up and running. And what we are seeing here from an administrator point of view, the workflow information, so the workflow context, what kind of information is now included in the workflow which is running now. And we can also see the execution log. And here actually the first approval step is now called for the local manager approval. But now let's take a look how this looks for the end user. And therefore we are going back, we're going now into the My Inbox application and see whether we have here a new step, a new request which we need to approve. So This is the one which I've just triggered. So the approval for the capital expenditure request creation in my role as a local manager. So I will find all the information, Stephan Schluchter, my first name, my last name, and now I can simply click on the approve. So this has been now successfully processed. Let me refresh my inbox. And ta-da, here's the next one. So now the next step has been called. You remember we have created a variant with 2 steps. So the first one was the local manager, which I have already approved. And then the next one would be the approval as the CFO. So you have seen just within a couple of minutes, I guess this was now around 10 or 15 minutes or so, I was able to use the content which has been provided within the Process Hub, import this content into my own environment, adapt here this process variant to my needs. So in this case, I enhanced the process variant with an additional step and also adapted the business rule and then actually run and executed my new process variant. No coding was required, but of course, under the hood, there is a workflow running, which is a little bit more complex than just these 2 steps. But today we would like to focus really on the experience of a business process expert in the low code environment. And with this is the end of the exercise number 1. We will now go to exercise number 2, where you will learn how you could create an RPA bot to actually trigger this process variant, which we have now created. And with this, I would like to hand over to Archana.
Thank you, Stefan. So you saw how you have now created the workflow management, different artifacts of workflow management. Instead, you did not create it from the scratch, but you imported a sample content that is made available in API Business Hub, and you just just configured them, and your workflows, the rules, the visibility scenario were automatically up and running. Now, what we are going to see is the integration of workflow management with robotic process automation. And here we are going to build a bot from the scratch, and you will see how we can call the workflow APIs to start the workflow, which Stefan just showed. So let's get started here. So we will first do a quick background check. I am into my automation factory, and the first thing that you will do is you will check if your agent is actually ready. So this is the same agent or the tenant that we added into the desktop agent. So that is the first check that you will do. The second thing that we will do is we will go into our desktop. So in the same system where you have the desktop agent installed, you have to set up a small JSON. So this is actually the request JSON. This is the input payload to the workflow. So you just saw Stefan started a workflow, and same way we will start a workflow from the bot, and the bot will actually read this JSON file that we have stored in a certain location in the local system where the agent is. And this is exactly the same bot. And if you see here, I'll just change my first name and the last name, and you will have to enter your email address and user ID based on your email addresses as what you have logged in your trial account. So this is the first thing that you will do. So I have basically I have saved this request.json file in my c::bot. So this is also an information that you have to know, because this will be used in the configuration of the automation that we will create. Good. So that's the second thing that we will do. And some people ask, like, if you do not have a Windows machine, you need to have a Windows machines for a desktop agent, because desktop agent currently cannot be installed in any other machine. And for you to really run the bot, you can still create the bot, but then you cannot run it until you have the desktop agent. So that is one of the mandatory requirement. Now, coming back to the automation factory, the first thing is we will create an environment. To create an environment, you just click on new environment, you give an environment detail and description. So for this workshop, I've chosen a type as test, but you can choose any type. And then once you go into the environment, the first thing that you will do is about creating variables. Okay, so what you will do is you can go into add variables. Okay, so okay, so first thing in the environment that you will do is adding the agent. Okay, so you just click on plus. You will get the agent because I've already added the agent, so you are not seeing that. But once you have created a fresh environment, then you will see an agent here. Okay, I'll just go back and create a test environment. Okay, so I will just go here and will add the agent. So this is the first thing that you will do, that you will add the agent into the test environment. The second thing that you will then do is so there are two parts to this exercise. So we have given you to import a pre-built capital expenditure bot, and you can also build the bot from scratch. So I'll show you both the options of importing a ready-to-use bot and also building the bot from scratch. Now, the first thing that we'll do is importing the bot. So before importing the bot, there are certain SDKs that are needed. And to import the SDKs, you go into the store, you click on SAP Intelligent RPA and search for core. And this is the SDK that you will be needing. Now, the version of the SDK and the version that you would want to import, the ready to use bot have to match. So the bot that is the pre-built bot that we have given is of version 1.17 um, 17.36. So this is the version you use. If you go into the store and if you directly click on get here, you will always the latest version get acquired, which is okay if you are building it from the scratch. But if you are looking forward to import the pre-built bot, then you can go to show all versions and you select this version, and there will be a button called get. You just click on get and this version gets acquired. You can have multiple versions acquired, there's no problem with that. So this is the first thing that you will do. Then what you will do is you go to projects. Okay, then you click import, and then here you select so this pre-built zip is already available in your exercises. So if you go to your exercise, then in the resources, in the file section, you will find this capital management zip. You can download the zip in your local environment, and then you can import it from there. So you just select this capital expenditure zip and it will be imported. So the import will fail only for one reason: if you do not have the core SDK of 1.17.36, which is mandatory for this for this CapEx management pre-built bot. Now, so that is the only thing needed for you to import. Now we will move on, and I'll show you how you can build the bot from the scratch. Okay, so let's go back to, so we are in the projects. You click on new project. You can just give a name here. And it will open a studio or the automation factory studio, where you will basically create the bot. It takes some time for this to load. Okay, so now if you see, this is the cloud studio that is now open, where we will now model the bot from the scratch. The first thing what you do here is the environmental variables. So here we will create 4 environment variables that is basically needed for the workshop. So first I'll create a definition ID. This is actually the workflow definition ID, and this is the definition ID of which the workflow will be triggered. Okay, another one is service URL. This is the basically the host URL that I showed you in the service instance key details. Then is the UAA client ID, and this is This is the client ID, again, from the workflow service instance key. Then is the UA secret, and here you have to choose the type as password. Okay, so this will basically be the client secret. And finally is the token URL. So these are the 4 environmental variables that we will create, and these are all with respect to the information needed to start the workflow. So once you have created this, you can just close this. So that's the very first thing that you do whenever you create a new new project for the bot. Next thing now we will do is creation of the bot. So the bot creation is done through an automation activity. So you click on plus, then go to create and click on automation. Okay, so this automation is always attached to the agent version. So the agent that you have enabled, because there are multiple versions of the agent that are available when you will go to the website where you can download those agent. So you have to ensure that you attach this automation with the right agent. So if you see here, so these are different agents that are available, but if you see the agent that you have registered, your automation factory will automatically appear. So ensure that you select that. And now you create your first automation. So I'll just say, okay, you just give a name, identifier will automatically be picked up. And then if you want, you can give a description. It takes some time to create the automation. It will import all the needed SDK packages that are needed for this automation. Good. So now we have created the automation, and now we will start modeling the different inputs and outputs, and also different automation and activities. So the first thing that you do is go to input and output, select a new add output, and here you give the name as okay, so this is the one where your final output will be collected. Okay, so I give it as any, and save this. So ensure that you keep saving your work so that it just doesn't get lost in case there's any browser refreshers or something like that. Now, so this is where I will get, so once the end will finish, here is where my output will be collected. Now let's go and start modeling my bot. The first thing that you will do is you will model a read file. So if you remember, there was a JSON file that we entered. So this is the first step where it will go and read that JSON file that I have stored. So first thing here, I'll just expand this a bit. So you have to mention from where it should pick your input file. Okay, so if you remember, this is the location in my in the same machine where I have my desktop agent installed. For if you have Windows machine, you do not have to bother about the 2 different systems that you can work on it. But because I am a Mac user, so I have my VM, so that's a different machine, and therefore I have to ensure that my request.json is on the same system where my agent is. Good, and then I will just change this name as an output parameter. So if you see, it has said this is the output parameter context from the step 1. So this is something that really good. There will be multiple parameters that you will be creating throughout whenever you are modeling the bot, and this number will associate from which step this context parameter, this parameter has been picked off from. Okay, so I'll just say this again. That's it. That was the read file thing. Then next is the encode string. Okay, so now I go on to the encode string. Now here in the encode string, basically I have to give an input, and I will get an output. So for an output, I will say, okay, collect this output into a parameter called client info, and then input, I will just pick it from the exercise. So we have done all this. Environmental variables are set, automation is created, read file is also done. And yeah, so this is the value that I will give to as an expression. So if you see here, this is actually the environmental variable, okay, so that we have created. So what it is saying is, because we have to create a bearer token, and the bearer token is basically created with client ID colon client secret, and that is what it is trying and doing here. And these information it is picking from the environmental variables. Okay, so with this, the encode string is also done. Now let me go to, so when you select this pane of changing and configuring properties will come. If you want to come back to the main tools, then you just have to cross and it comes back to the main automation information with the tools. Now let us do a custom script. So now I add a new activity of custom script, and I click on edit script. And now in this custom script, we will write certain code. I mean, because it's a JavaScript based custom script, so we will just start writing with first changing the name of the custom script, which will be generate token. Okay, generate options token. And then I will add input parameters to it, which will be the client info, and one more information, which will be URL. Then I'll also have an output parameter, which will be options get, and this type is any. Please ensure that you don't miss this type any, otherwise you will get issues when you are running the bot. Okay, so I have entered 2 input parameters and 2 output parameters. Now, because it is a custom script task, I need to also have a script here. So this is the script. Okay, so if you see here, what this script is actually doing is, it is calling the get call of the workflow. So this is getting the token. Okay, so it is making a get call with the UA URL. So this UA URL will be the host URL of the workflow service, and it is attaching. So this is the standard way as how you get, the OAuth token. And here, once the token is, once the information is there, because to run the client credentials, you also need some basic information, and this client info is actually obtained from this encode string. So if you remember, in encode string, we had a client ID colon secret. That is now that options we extracted it is in client info, and that is how we will give this as an authorization. So this is a very simple, a script task, or a script which is making a call to get the token. Okay, so I'll just save this. And now I will just click the generate token option, and I'll click the client info, which is actually from the step 2. So if you see here, the client info has to be from step 2, and the UA URL is what we get from the environmental variable. So E means that these are the fields from the environmental variable. 2 means the client info information that we got from step 2. Okay, now I'll save this. So now what will happen is, once we have generated the token will be stored in options get, that is an output parameter. Now we move on to the next activity call, which is basically now a web service call that we will do. So we will just type in here the web, And yeah. Okay, so now this is a web service call, and this will be a get call because this will be a get token call that we are doing. Here we will say here as options get. So if you see from here, whatever the token information we'll get, we will input it here, and the output is what we will be collecting is in REST token. That is a response token. Okay, so that's how a web service will be called. So we did all the preparations to call the token, then we made a web service call to get the token. Now we have the token which is installed in now the REST token. Now let's go on to call the workflow, and to that we again have to basically add a string here. These are all very simple operations. And here what we will do is we will write, because this is a string encoding that we have to do. So we have collected the response in the REST token, and now we will do a string here. And in the expression editor, we will write this. So which means we are preparing. So from the step 4, we have got the REST token access, and then we are adding this to the bearer. So this is how you made an OAuth 2.0 based calls to a service. And then we will collect this response in something called auth token. And we'll save this. Okay. Now, just 2 more steps left. So again, we will add a custom script task here. Okay, we will just add a custom script task here. We will edit the script. We will name the script as generate token upload. And we will add input parameters. So we will add 4 input parameters to this. One is token. The other is service URL. The third is definition ID. And the final one is context. And we will add 1 output parameter, which is options upload. And remember, the type will be any. I just save this. Okay, now I will have to add again a kind of a script here, and to do so I'll again go back to my exercise and we'll copy the script from there. Okay, so again here what you will notice in the script is that this is a definition ID. Please ensure that this definition ID name is exactly the workflow definition ID name that you have activated from the previous exercise of SAP Workflow Management. Okay, so there was a high value investment that is a workflow should exist. If this definition won't exist, then the bot will throw error when it is running because it won't find the workflow definition ID. Okay, so again, if you see, this is a definition ID that we prepared. This is the context, and if you remember, this context is actually the file that we read from the local folder, and this is a traditional way as how you call a workflow. So this is actually, you know, the relative URL for any workflow to start. So v1 workflow instances, it's a post call. The type is response, and then you give the headers because you need the authorization headers, which is a token. And this token is what you will actually obtain from the previous step of this get. Okay, so that's how you call. So you first fetch the token, and then you make a post call to start the workflow. And in the post call, you give that token. That's as simple as it is. So now we just save this, and now we have to map these input parameters for the script from the previous steps parameter. So the token is what you get from the token URL, which is the UAA URL. Then you use the service URL that you, okay, no, this is not the token. Okay. Okay, so you will use the token URL for, just give me 1 minute. Okay, and so this is the token URL. Did I miss a step in between? Yeah. So you use the token URL as here, and then you use a service URL, which is you get from there definition ID that you have obtained, and then the context that you have obtained from step 1. And then in the output, what you give is, again, it will pick all this when it runs. It will pick and put the information here in the options. Okay, now there's a final step. We will make a call to the web service, which will again be, it will do final post call, it will do. So we drag and drop a web service here. We name this as web service post. And then if you see here, the options will be options upload, which we obtained from the previous step, and the output will be in the res upload. Okay, so with this, we complete the entire modeling of the CapEx bot, which will actually start the workflow. In the end, what you just have to do is that you ensure that from the step 7, the res upload that you get, you feed into the final res call, which was actually the variable that we created initially, and where the final output will be seen. Good. So now we have created the workflow. Sorry, now we have created the bot, and what we will do now as a final step is we will also test this bot, right? Before even starting it from and generating the package and creating an automated an attended bot, we will first test this. So to test this, you can test this in the same landscape where your desktop agent is. So what I will do here is I will just go here. So I've opened an edge here, and I will just paste. Okay, because I'm a two-factor authenticated, so it will ask me for a passcode. Okay. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll go into the bot and I will test the bot. So I will click this test button here, and it will take me to the test automation configuration, where I will just choose a test environment. And then these values is what you will fetch from the workflow service instance. So you will basically go to your, I mean, you could also note it initially, but let me go into my sub account where the workflow instance, and this workflow instance is the one which has the scope to start the workflow, which is workflow instance start. So I'll go to the instances, and then My browser session is expired. It takes a couple of seconds to load. Okay, so I go into instances and subscriptions. And this is the workflow instance that we created with the scope. You can actually go and view, you can actually go and say view parameters, and it will show you the parameters. So you see that this is the instance that we will use instance detail to test this, because this scope is needed to start the workflow. Okay, so I go into the API key, I view the API key, and now I will keep fetching the information. Okay, so the first information that we need is a token URL. So the token URL is this one. So I'll just copy this URL and I'll just paste it here. Then is a UA client ID. So this is the client ID. I put it here. This is a definition. Definition ID is the high. This is the definition ID. Then is the UAA secret, which I do. And then is a service URL. So this is the service URL host that you will use, and then you can just click on test. Now it will go through each and every step and test, and will give you the output. So it will take some time to load. Yeah. So if you see the test was successful, I did not got any errors in here. And if I click now on the end, you will see the response that it has given. So if you expand the response call, you will see that it has actually run the workflow. So this is the output that we get whenever we start and run a workflow, right? So this is a workflow ID that will run. This is a definition, but this is all in the simulation, and this is not like a real run which we will basically do. This is just for testing, to ensure that your test is working all fine. So good. So now we have tested, our bot looks fine, all the steps works well. And now we will take steps further to publish this bot as a package and run it via the desktop agent. So for that, we go back into the Cloud Studio, and we do a generate package. Yeah, so when you click in here, you will get a package generated, and then you can just click on generate package. It will generate a new package for you. Yeah, so package is generated. Now I'll switch from the respective bot Cloud Studio to the main automation factory, and we will go to the environments. So the package is generated. Now we have to add that package to the environment. So I go into my environment. Okay, so I go into my environment and I add that package. So you see, there are two packages because I have two release, but you can, so this is the one that we just created. We add this package. And here again, when you are adding the package, you will have to set the same values as we did it before. Again, I'll just use this while setting the URL, service URL. Then this is the token URL, which I'll fetch from here. Then is the definition ID, which is high value. Investment. So what we did before was for test environment, and now we are doing this for productive run. So we have to enter all these details again. This is a secret that we enter, and then we enter the client ID. And we just say, okay. Okay, so we have a package added. Now, and the next that we will do is adding a trigger to the package. So okay, so the triggers are needed. Trigger will basically define, so this is the one that we deployed, so I'll just say next. Okay, so just choose the existing environmental variables. So there are three types of triggers that we have it available. One is attended, and one is an API, attended and scheduled. So API is the trigger, which means if you want to expose this bot as an API and you want to call this bot, let's say from workflow, from flow, from integration flow, or from any of the application. Attended bot is where, where you will explicitly I mean, you will define a time period and you have to explicitly go and click, and then only it will be triggered. And scheduled is like you do not have to really go and manually trigger the bot, it will automatically be triggered within the scheduled time period. Now, because I'm using trial and because it has the limited scope and I've already created one bot, that's why you see these options are not available for me. But don't worry, it will be available for you if it is your first bot, because there are restrictions in how many bots that you can create and you can, you can expose as attended in the trial landscape. Good. So once you have added the trigger, then the next is you will basically, so I will just show you an environment where I've already added a trigger. And so in this, if you see, the trigger is already added. And this trigger, when you add this trigger as an attended, it will also, if I just go and edit this, so it will ask you for what date range and for what time duration do you want this bot to be enabled in the desktop agent. So if you select a date range and a time range, then this bot will be available in your desktop agent for it to be clicked and run manually. So after adding trigger to it, we are mostly done with most of our stuff that we would want to do from the automation factory. So we in the test environment, you have now you have a package added. Okay, you have a package added which you want to run, you have triggers added, whether you want to run it in automated mode or in API mode or in a scheduled mode, and you have defined the timelines, you have the agents added, which is the virtual machine or the desktop agent where it will be running, and then you have also defined different variables, and you have also defined the initial values to these variables. Okay, so we are ready with the environment. Now, what we will do is the last thing that we would want to do is to create a pane. So the project pane is the last thing that you will do, and which will actually which is like, how do you want to visualize this bot in your desktop agent? So for that, you go and create a project pane, and you can just say CapEx workshop pane, and you just create it. So this is a view of a desktop agent, and when you drag and drop in here, so in your desktop agent, this is how this bot will be appearing. Okay, and then you just save this. Good. Now the final thing that we will do is we will release the package. Okay, so you would have created the packages, and now for this package to be available, you just have to release the package. So you click on you go to packages, you expand the generated package, and you just say release. Okay, and so your package is now released and will be available for consumption. So this is all that you do from the automation factory. So just a quick recap as what all we did. There are two parts to this exercise. We imported a ready-to-use bot, which is the Capital Expenditure BPI Academy bot. And then we also created a bot from the scratch, which was Capital Expenditure Workshop bot. In the bot, we created an automation, and in the automation, we created these different steps. The first step is to read the request JSON file from the local folder. Then the second one is about creating a bearer or client info information based on the client info ID and the secret. The third one is to prepare the script to generate the token. And the final one is a web service call using this information from the custom script to get the token. And then we basically created a token. We basically formatted the token that the response that we get, because this is how we are going to pass it to the web service call. Then we created and then we created a script to do a post call to the high value investment, which means to start a workflow of high value investment using the token information from the previous step. And finally, we made a post call and collected the response in the RS upload, which will finally be given and as an output to the response call once it ends. We tested this, and then we created needed information we generated the package, then we went into the environment, we added the package, we added the triggers, we added the different, and we gave the real environmental values to run this package. And finally, the generated packages, we release the package to be now consumed from the desktop agent. Now, the final part, which is now is about running this from the desktop agent. Okay, so let me now go back and let me click on the desktop agent that I had. Sometimes it takes a bit of time for the projects to appear. So you just ensure that that your desktop agent is ready. If it is in error mode, or if you don't see if you see an error here, then all you all have to do is just go and shut down and restart. So I'll just do a shutdown and restart for you. And okay, and now I will go and start the desktop agent again. Okay, take some time for the agent to start. And if I go here and check the status of the agent, yeah. So if you see, my agent has started, and if you see, it has already picked up. So if you remember, I couldn't add the workshop bot that I created, but this is the old bot that I created. And because there's only one bot that you can add to desktop agent, so that is the one. And if I click here to start the CapEx, so now what it would do, it will run your entire bot and it will start a workflow. Now I will go into so this is the workflow launchpad, which Stephan showed in the previous exercise walkthrough. And here, if you see now, if I go to the workflow instances, you will see that a new capital expenditure bot that is created. So if you see, my time is to 2 p.m. And that is what, this is the latest bot that got created. And if I go to show subflow instances, you'll see that there's an approval task that got created. And this now approval task is waiting for me as an approver to be approved. Okay, so before this, what I also wanted to show you is that it actually started a version of high value investment. So the bot has actually started this workflow. And now if I see, if you see, I have a task in my inbox where and high value investment, if Stephan showed you, is a 2 level of investment. One is from local manager and another is from the CFO. So this task has come to my inbox first as a local manager, which is the first approval step. So I'll just say, okay, I'll just say approve here, and it will come again for me as a CFO approval. So yeah, so it has come again as a CFO approval, which is the second level of approval, and I'll say approved as, and I'll say approve. And because the high level investment is only 2 level of approval, so therefore my instance will complete. So if I go to my workflow instances and I search for completed instances. So you will see that this workflow, which was started, has been completed. And so what all was, the workflow was started, and then this, and the local manager approval was completed, the CFO approval was completed, and therefore the workflow completed. So that's how this whole integration of workflow management with robotic process automation happens. As I said, I mean, the integration is two ways. So this is one form of integration where you started a workflow from the bot using the APIs, and you will find all the workflow APIs in api.sap.com, and you can go to API Business Hub, and here if you search for workflow, uh, um, you will find all the APIs for the workflow. And what we used today was this workflow instance API. So this is actually the API that we use to start the workflow. And if you see, this needed a scope of workflow instance start, and that's what we did. And if you see, this is actually the initial payload that is needed by the workflow, and this is what we formed using the custom script task in RPA. So that is one way of integration where you start the workflow from the bot, but you can expose a bot as an API, a bot as well, and then you can call that bot from the workflow using the service task. So that is a two-way integration between the workflow management and robotic process automation. So with this, I come to an end of the exercise 2 as well, which is the last exercise. So what you saw today is you saw that you set up your environment using the boosters. You did some additional steps which were needed for this exercise. Then Stephan took you through the workflow management exercise where you imported a sample capital expenditure. You created a new variant, then you activated that variant, and as soon as you activate a variant, the workflow gets generated. And then you went ahead and activated a business rules and a process visibility as well. So these are all ready-made different workflow management artifacts that you just configured and activated for ease of use. And then once you have your workflow ready, then you wanted to start it with a bot. So which I showed you using an automation. You created a bot from scratch. You tested that bot, you created an environment, and then using the desktop agent, you started the bot and went through the same approval as what you would have done in the only workflow management based scenario. So which concludes the entire walkthrough of the exercises. And now we would be okay to take questions from you if you have any. Just one thing just that I wanted to mention is, so we are working on this whole content economy, and so you will see a lot and lot of pre-built enterprise ready content packages available in API Business Hub, and we also have a lot of bots that are available in the bot store. So make use of these pre-built and ready-made content that you have. And so here you see that I am in API Business Hub, and I went to workflow management category where you see a lot of different content packages that are available for different scenarios that we have identified across different industries. So they are cross industries, they are finance based scenarios, they are even ERP based scenarios that we felt if we provide it as a ready-made content that will be useful for our customers who are looking forward for similar things, and they do not have to build from scratch. So do go through these content. So currently we have close to 40 plus content that we have made it available, and by end of the year the roadmap is to have 100 plus content packages across different industries and across different LOBs. Similarly, we have different content available in the bot store, so you can go to the bot store and you will find close to 250 plus bots that we have that are readily available for some common process problems that we have identified are available up here. So do make use of these ready to use content that we are publishing before you go ahead and think of building something from the scratch. So that is a kind of mindset that we would want you as a customer or partner to now adapt, and also give us feedback if you're looking forward to some pre-built content that you would wish us to provide. Yeah. Okay, so Rahul is saying, can we call create purchase order API from the custom code step in the bot? Yes, you can do that. I mean, any API calls that you would want to make, you can make it from the bot web service call. And same is with workflow also, with the workflow service task as well. If you want to call any kind of REST or OData call, you can also make a call from the workflow service task. Yeah, Stephan has posted some communities where we are very active. So request you to join these SAP communities. You can post all your questions and we will be very happy to answer them. If you need any support from any one of us, we will post our email IDs in the chat. You can basically contact us through those email IDs and we will be happy to support you. Meantime, if you are trying your exercise in parallel, you can also continue with that, and we are around here for 16 more minutes, and we can help you with any of your queries. So the idea of this workshop was basically to show you the integration pattern, and not to help you build the workflow from the scratch. So there is a separate exercise session which is Dev 164, which is, I mean, both the sessions have happened, but in case you would want to register and try these out, so there you will get more details of how you can build a workflow, a rule, a visibility scenario from the scratch, and also how you can publish the content packages. You can bundle them and publish them in API Business Hub. So that is Dev 164 in case you would want to learn more about how to build the workflow from the scratch. But this was more of integration to bot, and therefore we gave you an easy way out to import the content, configure them so that it's ready to be consumed from the bot, and showed you how you can build the bot from the scratch. So you can try out the exercise. These sessions are all recorded. The recordings will be available once the session concludes, and you can hear the recordings later on and try your exercises. And if still you have issues, if still you have some queries, we all are available there to help you with all your queries. So please do not hesitate to get back to us even after the TechEd ends. And if you have any kind of use cases that you would want to discuss with us, any kind of solution engineering that you wish us to review, we'll all be very happy to do so. Yeah, Tim, we will post the link to Intelligent RPA store with all the packages. So for EPPM on cloud, we have plans to release some standard content packages. And they should be releasing in couple of weeks now. If you can reach out to me separately, I can give you the list of some content packages that we want to release with EPPM on cloud. But as such, there's no plan for embedded workflow or RPA usage with EPPM. But as an extension packages, if you already have EPPM and if you feel that there are still some gaps, these are the content packages that we are offering on top of it. Stephan, maybe you can bring up the slide with other presentation, other sessions which we have, so that if anybody wants to go through that.
Well, especially I would like to recommend to you Dev 104. This is where we are also talking about SAP process automation, evolution, workflow management, and intelligent RPA. And then we have a dedicated lecture session on intelligent RPA. It's INT 103, implement citizen developer ready automation with SAP intelligent RPA, and also one dedicated lecture on workflow management, which is Dev 200, called Accelerate Your Workflow Projects with Predefined Content. And in addition to that, we also have dedicated hands-on session. Of course, they were overbooked quite quickly after the announcement went out, but you can also have a look at these exercises in the GitHub and also take a look at the recording. So this would be Dev 164, develop, configure, and provision application workflows and content. And the other one, INT 160, building a production-grade automation in minutes with SAP Intelligent RPA. And by the way, later today, we are also live on channel 1. So the session CH029 called Accelerate Application Development and Process Automation with Low Code and No Code. This will be today at 2 p.m. CET. Please feel free to come into the session. I think this would be really a nice add-on also to the stuff you have learned today in our hands-on session.
Okay, if there are no more questions, then thank you from all of us that you took out time to join our session. And I hope the information that we provided was worth, and you will try out the exercises, and you can always reach out to us whenever you get stuck or you have more queries or you want to discuss some use case with us. Thank you again for joining us, and hope you enjoy the remaining of the TechEd.